Neymar to Inter Miami, Rashford's new club, Flick's clear-out at Barca, Nico Williams, a Man United player, all this and much more in today's episode. Are you ready? Then let's get started. Pep Guardiola and a crisis? It still feels unbelievable, right? But here it is, reality. The machine has started to malfunction, the mechanism is grinding, and the diamond-studded Manchester City is turning into a huge but rickety sports car. And the main alarm signal is Pep himself. You might smirk and say, here we go again, another alarm bell from Guardiola. Yes, it's not the first time. Pep has been through this before, questionable tactical decisions, miscalculations, and subtle hints of doubt. But previously, the diagnosis was always, don't panic, it's Pep. Everything will be resolved when the genius finds another breakthrough. But how quickly things change. One win in 11 matches, a lost derby, endless questions from the press, and the same words over and over. I'm not good enough. Seriously? The same Pep who confidently marched towards victories is now openly admitting his helplessness. Listening to Guardiola is uncomfortable. Before, his analytical scalpel dissected any problem and found a solution. But now, his voice carries something we're not used to hearing. Doubt. Injuries? He'll say, no, it's me. A tough schedule? Again, no. It all boils down to one thing. I am responsible. He takes all the blows himself, but behind this, we see not heroism, but inner fatigue. Where did it come from? Let's be honest. After the treble, Guardiola looked like a man who had reached the summit, and now any new goal is just a pale copy of it. He extended his contract, but with each interview, the impression grows that he did it out of respect for the club. Not from an inner fire. It's as if Pep is waging a war with himself. And here he stands before us, a great coach who has lost faith in his magic recipe. But let's take it step by step. Who is on the field right now? Where is that impenetrable pressing that used to demolish everyone? Why does everything fall apart like a house of cards without Rodri? And why does the team lose concentration in the final minutes of crucial matches? There are too many questions. It's hard to imagine that the club would decide to part ways with Guardiola right now. The board of directors believes that Pep is the man who can turn the ship back towards victories. But how long will this faith last? Everything could change in the summer. It's quite possible that both parties will part ways by mutual agreement. On the one hand, it's unthinkable to imagine City without Pep. On the other hand, every era has its expiration date, and if this is indeed the end, what will its finale be? There's still time to rewrite the script, but is Pep doing enough to achieve that? In any case, now is not the time to write him off. Let's not forget, it's moments like these that make coaches great or destroy their legacy. Pep Guardiola is facing his biggest challenge yet, and all we can do is wait and watch. What do you think is happening with Manchester City? Fatigue, a systemic crisis, or just a temporary rough patch? Share your thoughts in the comments. It will be interesting to know if you believe in the great Pep's comeback or if you're already anticipating a new face at the Etihad. Marcus Rashford, the lad who just yesterday was considered the hope of Old Trafford, has been put up for transfer. He was dropped from the match against City, and then, as the wise men say, the inevitable followed. His days are numbered. The twilight of an era. You know, there's always this pang of sadness when a homegrown legend departs. Even if not quite a legend in the classic sense, more like a symbol of an academy graduate who made it to the top, the embodiment of local pride. And now his own club, his home essentially, is pushing him out the door, ruthlessly, pragmatically, without any unnecessary sentimentality. Cultural reset, they say. Yeah, we've heard that one before. Ruben Amorim insists it's not about discipline. Then what is it about? Lack of dedication? A dimming spark in his eyes? An unwillingness to fight tooth and nail for the badge? Come on, Marcus gave his all. Sometimes brilliantly, sometimes lackluster, but always with desire. It didn't always work out, damn it, but the desire was evident. Or did we imagine it? And here arises a reasonable question. Is Rashford truly indispensable? Does he make the top 11 of today's United? Honestly, hand on heart, it's doubtful. There was a time, he carried the team on his shoulders when chaos reigned around him. But now he's more of a shadow of his former self. And this is where it gets really interesting. It turns out the Red Devils are no longer willing to wait. They're not willing to coddle a talent that might never fully blossom, cutting him loose, so to speak. Harsh, but perhaps fair. I heard an opinion that we talk too much about Rashford, that he's a good player but not a world-class star. And you know, there's some truth in that. But damn it, he's one of our own. He's flesh and blood of this club. And to get rid of him like this, in one fell swoop, for the sake of improving standards? And where to now? Paris Saint-Germain is looming on the horizon. Money certainly doesn't stink there, but will he be comfortable there? Won't he get lost among the star-studded cast? Will he be able to reboot his career? And his salary, I tell you, is not for modest clubs. £365,000 a week. Who would risk laying out that kind of money for a player who is clearly not in his best form right now? The January transfer window, United is in a hurry, as if they want to get rid of dead weight as soon as possible. Or is this really part of a bigger plan? A plan to restore former glory? Sir Jim Ratcliffe, they say, has personally taken charge. He decided to bring order to the mess that has been going on since Ferguson's departure. And Rashford, it turns out, is the first victim of this cultural revolution. On the one hand, you understand the management's logic. Change is needed. Fresh blood is needed. Players who are ready to die on the pitch for the club are needed. But on the other hand, it's damn frustrating to just write off a guy who was recently the idol of the stands. And what about Marcus himself? What's going on in his heart? How does it feel to read these news stories, to see his name being dragged through the mud? It must be painful, very painful. Betrayal? Disappointment? I don't know about you, but it unsettles me. Of course, football is a business, and a brutal business, I must say. But you still want to believe that behind all these numbers and transfers, there are real people with feelings and emotions. And this departure of Rashford, it's kind of soulless, you know? As if they just wrote off an old asset. And now you sit and think, what's next? Who's next on the chopping block? Who will be the next victim of the cultural reset? And will this hardline policy bring results? Will it return Manchester United to the top? Or are we simply witnessing another cycle of chaos at Old Trafford? Time will tell. But there's a lingering aftertaste. You know, a very unpleasant aftertaste. What do you think? Write in the comments, share your opinion. I'm interested to hear your point of view on this matter. The Red Devils seem to be seriously targeting Nico Williams from Athletic Bilbao. And you know what's most interesting? The young Spaniard is also being courted by PSG and Barcelona. Rumours that United are looking for a replacement for Marcus Rashford certainly come as a bolt from the blue. Have they sensed something amiss at Old Trafford, or is this just a clever move to shake up the forward, to force him to give his all? Who knows what intrigues are being woven behind the scenes in football offices? But the fact that Nico Williams' name has surfaced in the context of the Red Devils is a wake-up call, and a loud one at that. According to Spanish media, Manchester United are not just keeping tabs on the 22-year-old winger, but have already made a concrete offer. Now that's what I call determination. It's clear that the United bosses aren't going to sit idly by while their rivals snatch up a tasty morsel. But other European giants are also in the mix. PSG, with their financial muscle, are always a serious threat, and Barcelona, well, no need for further explanation. It's a historically attractive option for any Spanish footballer. El Nacional claims that United are one of 3 clubs who have established contact with Williams' agents. And the most interesting part is that we're talking about a possible transfer as far off as 2025. So nobody expects Williams to move to Manchester anytime soon. This seems more like a preliminary shot, a way of testing the waters. But what drive? What self-confidence? But hold on, let's not jump to conclusions. Is United really considering Williams as a direct replacement for Rashford? That's still up in the air. After all, any transfer of the Spaniard is directly dependent on Marcus's future. And let's not forget about financial fair play. The Red Devils need to carefully monitor their spending, especially under the strict Premier League rules. The January transfer window is a fickle thing, and money is usually tight. However, if we believe the Spanish sources, United currently have a better chance of landing Williams than Barcelona. And the reason is simple: money, money, and more money. As we know, the Catalans are not exactly in the best financial shape right now, and this is where the Mancunians have an opportunity to take advantage of their rival's weakness. Nico Williams is undoubtedly a talented guy. It's no coincidence that he's considered one of the most promising young players in the world. A product of Athletic's academy, he has already made a name for himself. Fast, technically gifted, with good dribbling skills. Exactly what a modern attacking team needs. And if Garnacho, with all due respect to his talent, hasn't yet reached the level of consistency that, for example, Ruben Amorim wants, then Williams is a finished product capable of strengthening any team. So what does this all mean? Are Manchester United serious about strengthening their attacking flanks? Or is this just a tactical move to spur on their current players? The competition with PSG and Barcelona promises to be fierce. Can United lure the young Spaniard to their side? Can the Red Devils handle such a race? What do you think of this turn of events? Do you believe in the Williams transfer? Or is it all just empty rumours? Hansi Flick's purge at Barcelona is a desperate move, but a logical one. In January, the club is ready to part ways with 4 players, and the names being mentioned are raising eyebrows. Ansu Fati, Ferran Torres, and, get this, Ronald Araujo. How about that list? While many have already given up on Fati, Araujo, who was once valued at 100 million, and Torres, who scores by the skin of his teeth, are a real gut punch. Let's break it down. We'll start with Fati. Once upon a time, he was the new Messi, the guy who was supposed to restore Camp Nou to its former glory. Now, it's hard to say, but Ansu has become a symbol of unfulfilled hopes. He went on loan to Brighton, where his career was supposed to take off, but it ended up being rather bland. He returned home, sat on the bench, and still draws a hefty salary. And Flick, according to rumours, has already pointed him to the door. In other words, if you can't fit into the new Barca, then sorry. But okay, Fati, he himself seems to have gotten lost somewhere between ambition and reality. But Araujo, that's a real bombshell. One of the best defenders in recent years, a pillar of the defence and a bastion, as they like to say in Spain. True, this season that bastion has looked more like a collapsed wall. Injuries have knocked Ronald off his rhythm. And while he's only just returning, Cubarsí and Inigo Martinez have already staked their claim to a place in the starting lineup. So what now? Fight or pack his bags? The situation with Araujo is ambiguous. Yes, at his peak, he's a machine. But if there's a buyer with a big check, then why not? Times are tough. The financial catastrophe at Barca has become the norm, and the academy continues to feed the squad with its wunderkinds. Selling Araujo at a profit sounds like a plan, but are you sure that Flick has a backup option that will be just as reliable? That's an open question. Now, let's move on to Ferran Torres, an enigma of a player. One moment, he's scoring decisive goals and delivering performances that earn him the title of saviour. The next, he suddenly vanishes on the field, so much so that you can't even catch him on camera. Psychology? Possibly. He certainly lacks confidence, and for Barcelona today, stability is crucial. Flick sees him as a problem, but what about the goals he does bring? Letting go of Torres now is a risk, and a pretty big one. In all this, one clear message emerges. Flick is building a team to his liking and is ready to make tough decisions. The youth, on whom they are betting, have shown themselves to be better than expected. Cubarsí, Yamal, Gavi, they're on fire and displacing those who were previously untouchable. This is good for the club's future, but isn't it creating new chaos in the locker room? After all, Araujo, Fati and Torres are not insignificant figures in terms of status. There's another nuance: money. Barca's financial situation forces Laporta and Deco to squirm like they're on a hot griddle, and Araujo and Torres could bring in a tidy sum, which the club could use to patch up holes and make new signings. Sell now or take a risk and wait until summer? That is the question. So, who will leave in January? I'd bet that Fati will indeed say goodbye to the club, and it will be sad but expected. But Araujo and Torres are a different story. I'm sure Flick will be watching them closely, but is he ready to lose 2 key players at once? What do you think? Do you agree with Flick, or is his list too radical? Write in the comments, share your opinion, and don't forget to like. It seems we're not just looking at a simple transfer, but a full-blown transfer saga involving Paulo Dybala, AS Roma, and Galatasaray. Just think about it. The Argentine maestro, who not so long ago was basking in the glory of the Stadio Olimpico, could quietly, almost on tiptoe, leave the Eternal City in January, and not just anywhere, but to the Turkish League. Rumours that the Giallorossi were ready for a fire sale have been swirling for a while. But to immediately target their main star? This, smells not just of squad changes, but of a real revolution, or, if you will, a purge. Yesterday's heroes are falling out of favor. The vice president of the Turkish giants, Metin Öztürk, didn't deny anything and directly stated that there had been contact with Dybala's representatives. Moreover, it's rumored that La Jolla's agent, a certain Carlos Novel, is already settling in Turkey, practically choosing an apartment for Paulo with a view of the Bosphorus. And Galatasaray itself is already licking its chops at a generous 10 million euros per year for the Argentine, offering him the role of a new leader who should take Simbom to the next level. Roma apparently wouldn't mind getting rid of their recent darling. And this despite the fact that Dybala, upon arriving in Rome 2 years ago, literally made the Tifosi fall in love with him. Remember how he was presented against the backdrop of the Colosseum? How thousands of fans sang his praises. It wasn't just a contract signing, it was a coronation, honestly. And now what? La Jolla. No longer the jewel in Roma's crown? The current season has been frankly unsuccessful for the Wolves. The team is languishing in the lower part of the table. And Dybala himself, let's be honest, is playing lackluster. Only 2 goals and 1 assist in 18 matches. That, you must agree, is not the level expected from a player of his caliber. Yes, everyone has slumps, but here there's also the looming automatic contract extension. 7 more appearances on the field, and the Argentine will get another lucrative year in the Italian capital. But the club, given its current financial problems, seems to be unable to afford this trick. By the way, speaking of money, Dybala's salary this year is 16 million euros gross, and in the case of a contract extension, the price tag rises to more than 30 million. For a second, that's the cost of a decent player. And if we talk about the release clause, it is 12 million euros. But the Turkish club, of course, is counting on a significant discount since there is very little time left until the contract expires. And here comes the main question. What about Dybala himself? After all, just recently, when he was being hunted by Saudi club Al-Qadsiya, he flatly refused to leave the Apennines. And even now, apparently, he's not eager to trade the Roman Colosseum for Turkish mosques. They say he will only leave if Roma themselves ask him to, so to speak, show him the door. But excuse me, is this the behavior of a captain? Is this how leaders act? Jumping ship, which by the way hasn't sunk yet, is somehow ungentlemanly, to say the least. This whole situation, frankly, leaves a strange aftertaste. On the one hand, Roma's desire to lighten the wage bill and get at least some money for a player who, let's be honest, is not living up to expectations is understandable. On the other hand, to give away their leader, albeit a faded one, without a fight? Do the Giallorossi really have no pride left? Are they really ready to sell everything that shines for short-term gain? Or maybe Dybala simply lost faith in the team, in the coach, or even worse, in himself. One thing is clear, Roma is on the verge of big changes. And perhaps Dybala's departure will be only the first act in this tragedy, or conversely, the beginning of a new bright chapter. What awaits La Jolla? Will he stay at Roma despite all the rumors and try to regain his former greatness? Or will he go to Turkey to seek new happiness? What do you think? Will this possible transfer make Roma stronger or ruin the club? Once again, we're being fed rumors about Neymar and Inter Miami. And once again, the possible move of the Brazilian star to sunny Florida is looming on the horizon. The idea of reuniting the legendary MSN trio sounds like a dream for any football fan. But is it really that simple? Inter Miami, led by David Beckham, has had its sights set on Neymar for a long time. And Neymar himself seems open to the idea of moving to MLS to play alongside Messi and Suarez again. Jorge Mas, the club's co-owner, even publicly stated, "Yes, we want him, and we're ready to work on a deal." But here's where it gets interesting. Neymar's current club, Al-Hilal, hasn't started negotiations to extend his contract. And although their agreement with the Brazilian expires at the end of the season, another possible extension has appeared on the horizon. The reason? Neymar is not only a star on the field, but also a gold mine off it. Advertising, marketing, attracting attention to the Saudi League. All this makes him a key asset. But here's the snag. Neymar recently stated that he wants to play in the Club World Cup with Al-Hilal. Does this mean he's ready to stay? Or is it a cunning move to raise the stakes in negotiations? After all, sources claim that Neymar might be using Inter Miami's interest to squeeze an even more lucrative contract out of the Saudis. Genius or cynical? You decide. Still, let's imagine. Neymar moves to Miami, Florida, beaches and a stadium where the famous MSN trio is once again lighting it up. It would be a real boom for MLS, which has already received a huge boost thanks to Messi. Can the Herons afford Neymar financially? The question is debatable, but their motivation is obvious. Beckham seems ready to sell his soul to make this transfer a reality. But does the club have enough ambition to convince Al-Hilal? While Al-Hilal is trying to hold on to Neymar, Inter Miami isn't giving up. The club is preparing a new offer in January. And although the Saudi League might panic over losing such an important player, the main card is in Neymar's hands. He can dictate his terms. But here's the question. Does Neymar really want to move to MLS? Or is this just another round of who will blink first? His hints at a reunion with Messi, made in a trailer for the game eFootball, add fuel to the fire. But no one knows what's going on in the head of this Brazilian. And what about Al-Hilal? On the one hand, they risk losing one of their main stars. On the other hand, they have every chance to make an offer that Neymar can't refuse. Are they ready to take this step? This whole thing is more like a football drama than a regular transfer. One tweet and the fans' emotions explode. 2 interviews and the experts build new theories. What game is Neymar playing? And who will ultimately emerge victorious from this race? What do you think? Does Neymar really want to join Inter Miami, or is he just playing cat and mouse with Al-Hilal? Write in the comments, share your opinion, and don't forget to like.